and welcome to the Green Sparks podcast. I'm Charlotte, your host, and this is your go-to place for conversations about regenerative education. Here we share inspiring stories from our Green School community alongside expert insights, all aimed at nurturing a love for living and learning that makes a positive difference to our shared worlds. Today we're joined by a teacher in the lower school. It's Edd Moore, and we're going to take a deep dive into the role of a teacher who teaches with regenerative education as an approach. So let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast, Edd.
Thank you so much, Charlotte. Thanks for having me.
Awesome to have you here. Now, the first question that we ask all of our guests is, who are you and what difference are you trying to make to our shared worlds?
So my name's Edd Moore. I'm a primary school teacher here at Green School in grade 2, and I have a real huge passion being an environmentalist, but also empowering children to take action for the good of their planet.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So I really want to explore what it's like to be a teacher who teaches with a regenerative approach to learning. Maybe we could start off with planning then. How do you approach planning so that you are creating all of these dynamic, creative, connected experience for your students?
I start as an inquiry question. That could be, how well can we look after our world? It could be, how can we keep our oceans looking amazing? And then I plan for 3 to 4 weeks and then see where the learning goes from there, see what the children, their interests take, and then follow their learning of where they go with it. And then as we follow the learning, I then start getting a few ideas of perhaps who we can get in from the community to help support that work that we're trying to create within the classroom.
So it's really quite a co-created approach then. Obviously, you are that teacher in the classroom. You have these like big, broad, open-ended questions, which I love. And then really thinking about your students, that for every year, every unit of learning, they're different, right? They're bringing in their different interests. So I love how you keep that open for them to contribute and create. Teachers in other schools might have a more, let's say, fixed or rigid approach to curriculum. Maybe they need to plan like 12 weeks in advance or something like that. What do you see as the benefits of your approach? And what do you see as the sort of the downsides or the negatives of being like super prepared as a teacher?
I think being super prepared is always a good thing, but you're restricting yourself. 12 weeks, you don't know where the learning's going, you don't know what the interests of the children are. The children might hatch on to something that think, oh wow, like I want to learn a bit more about oceans. Then you're just like, well, that's not on the plan. Like we've got to stick to the plan. You might not be able to bring in community partners. And I've always found as well that the behaviour of the children, they start getting bored. They want to follow their own interests. But if you stick rigidly to your own practice and your own lessons, the behaviour starts going. They start losing interest. They don't want to take part. They perhaps then start not wanting to come to school. But on the upside, by doing something a bit more relaxed, a bit more going with the flow approach, you really start to connect with the interests of the children, of where their learning's at, what they want to be doing. They're more willing to want to go out into their community and start taking action. They start putting pressure on their parents and people that they find in the community, and then they bring all that passion really back to the classroom, where their work is just amazing, exceptional, and they want to then take it even more further themselves. And it's a real, for me, I'm forever feeling very proud of my students here at Green School for what they're doing, and they're just being able to just run free with what they feel really passionate about.
And, this is actually a common theme that I'm finding when I speak to people about how they teach with a regenerative approach. As sort of front and centre, is that the learning feels quite alive and the learning takes on this whole kind of power of its own, which I think sounds exciting. And lucky children that they have a teacher who is able to leave a lot of space for them to contribute their own ideas and passions. Let's have a look at now some examples then of regenerative learning units that you have taught with your students in grade 2. Can you give us some examples then of how they have made the learning their own in your grade, in your class?
We've looked at, within my class, we've looked at the 8 R's, the hierarchy, the waste hierarchy of the 8 R's, and they come up with their own R's. So from rethink to refuse, reuse, refill, repurpose, repair, all the way down to then last resort recycling. They implemented that within the primary area, but then they also then took it home and started implementing it there. And we had children wanting to get their food from the get their food not from the supermarket, but getting it, supporting local markets and getting their food from there, reducing on the plastic side, which is fantastic. Children then wanting to make their own repair shop, their own like sewing repair shop. Then, so one child went out and bought their own sewing machine, and then she started making her own clothes and her own pencil cases from offcuts of material. But then it went a bit further, of then children starting their own knitting group and making their own jumpers and scarves. I'm not sure why, but it doesn't get that cold down here in Bali. But they were thinking outside the box. They were thinking of some really good innovation that they could then contribute. And I think the biggest one is using nature itself. We've got an abundance of plants and trees within our campus here at Green School Bali, and children using those plants to make their own paints, which is amazing. And then trying to find ways that they can thicken the paint to make thicker paint. And that was basically on the back of children realizing that paint is made of plastic, but it also comes in plastic. So they were sort of, they were coming up with their own product, but also realizing that the impact they can make on not just themselves, but also the whole school. Like the whole school uses paint. So it was a great all-round project.
I just want to pause then, just to sort of tease this out, because we might have some people listening who say, oh, this sounds like sustainability education. And so what we're really exploring here at Green School Bali is regenerative education. And I think that from what I'm hearing, it's not that regenerative education is better than sustainability, that actually they coexist. And that's important to note. But in your experience, as your in your teaching capacity, how do you shift towards regenerative education? And like, what's the difference? What do you see as being that kind of nuance or difference in the two approaches to learning and living?
Yeah, I think we look here at Green School and within my practice and here in primary, we look at all the implications that we have on the impact that we can have on everything that we do. So if it's looking at paints, we're looking at all the processes and all the impacts that we have on what we do to make that paint, from picking the flowers to then heating up the flowers in the water to then generate the color, and then making the paint, but then also then realizing then what do we do with the petals that we've used. What we don't just put them in the bin, we then reuse them, whether that we're composting them, or then we can actually reuse them to make even more paint, or we can make them into dried flowers. We can make our own journals. There's other ways that we can start using it, and it's basically having that forward thinking to think more so outside the box of what implications, what other things might have an impact on what we're trying to make or do within our environment.
And I guess there is this idea that we need to sense sense into our environment. So when you're talking about, choosing particular flowers and petals and things like that, how do you encourage the students to sense those flowers? Like, how do they know which ones are best, or is it just an open inquiry? Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, it's an open inquiry. Children go out into the grounds. Obviously, there are some scaffolds that have gone on to sort of show children what area they need to be looking in. But that's where the inquiry really comes alive. A bit of trial and error, children getting it wrong, and it's okay to get it wrong, and then realizing actually from what they see and what they do and what they trial, that then sends them in a different direction of, oh, right, so that flower didn't work. It worked a bit, but it wasn't as strong as this flower. What else can I do? Oh, can I use bark of a tree? I wonder if bark of a tree might be a bit more darker and a bit more colourful. Are there other things around me that I could be using to make natural paint from?
And I guess what I'm hearing right now is that sustainability is about having these solutions, right? It's having a problem and then finding a solution. And that's great. And that's really important. But the downside is that these approaches can become very operationalized or very mechanical. Whereas what I'm hearing from you right now is that sustainability is different to regeneration, because regeneration is about having that big inquiry where you don't necessarily think about solutions, or you don't think about getting the right answer. You can take risks, you can have mistakes. There is no right or wrong way of doing everything, because everything is unique to that particular place, those people, that ecosystem. And again, I heard you use that word alive. So it's thinking about how the learning is alive, and the students are following all of the energy that is produced from the high engagement, which as a teacher comes back to these questions, right? These big open questions. We might have some people listening then who say, hold on, if this is too open, if this is too dynamic, what does that mean for the other areas of learning? For example, those foundational skills like reading, writing, mathematics, or as our US friends would say, math. How do you kind of try to make sure all bases are covered? You've got regenerative futures, but we've also got those key skills that we know are so important to participate in a ever-changing world.
Well, the inquiry question is weaved into all the subjects all the way through in a meaningful way, which is really important. And we keep on revisiting. So we teach phonics every day, every morning for 20 minutes. But then we reinforce the phonics, or the words that we've been teaching, or the sounds we've been teaching, or the spellings as well, to then reinforce that within the thematic that we're working on. Whether that's writing letters to government ministers, writing our own environmental stories. We just keep on reinforcing what we're teaching in the foundation subjects all the way through on a daily basis.
And that's another thing that I'm hearing as being an important feature of regenerative education, is this weaving through, so that we don't have these curriculum areas that sort of stand on their own as silos, but that they're kind of enmeshed in sort of fluid ways. That helps to kind of break down these perceived separations, perhaps, that sort of might cut the world up. Now, Ed, I know that you are amazing at forming community connections. This is really your thing. So I'd like to now think about how teachers might build relationships with their communities, and how those relationships can then really enrich the curriculum and the children's learning. Maybe you could share with us, how do you make sure that the local community is all part of the learning that takes place with your students here on campus?
Oh, connecting with the community is so important, and it could be so worthwhile for the projects that people are doing, and they bring a wealth of knowledge and expertise to a topic area. But I'm doing this through Spark assemblies, which have been pretty awesome over the last 12 months, getting members of the community, whether it's an organized environmental organization or a business, to come in and give a talk about what they're doing within Bali to spark that interest with the children, which generates so much conversation throughout the campus, which then they can take home as well and talk to their parents about. And it's also generated a big conversation amongst parents as well. Parents come along to these Spark events, and they really connect, and they sometimes even invest in an organisation that they didn't even realise that even existed here in Bali. And it's working both ways. It's giving those organisations a platform to showcase what they're doing, but also an opportunity for children to spark that interest with them. They might have an idea on the back of listening to that organisation, or the teachers might think, wow, like they're really cool. Let's get them in and see if they can support the learning that we're doing within our classroom.
Yeah.
So that's, it's really been a huge positive.
It's kind of like a great way to support professional development as well, right?
Yeah.
If your teachers are at the assembly as well, then they see the possibilities. And you, having done that research and sort of made this Spark assembly happen, well, then the whole community gets to benefit from that and then take that further if they want to. What about intergenerational learning? Do you connect your students to any of the, say, older or younger students on campus? Could you speak to that?
Yeah, I'm always looking for ways that we can work with other grades across Green School, and we've recently been working with grade 6 and grade 12 on a restoration project linked to coral. So grade 6 have been teaching my class about what their knowledge and their expertise in coral and the facts that they know. And then grade 12 been coming in and playing these amazing games that can help with the facts of coral a bit further. And then with all this information, my grade 2s have been working with a company called Crafting Coral to make ceramic homes to help coral thrive in our oceans, and these are going to get put down in Sanur and in Lombok with the grade 12s, which is pretty cool. So it's everybody's making a difference. Everyone's making an impact together. It's great to see, 50, 60 students all working together on a local project.
And how does that actually happen? Is it a case of that one teacher speaks to another teacher, speaks to another teacher?
Yeah, it was just it was literally, I was doing this coral work, looking more of a focus on the oceans, because that's what the children wanted to do. And then I knew that Mr. Ocean himself, Francis, he had a great wealth of knowledge, and I got to speak to him. And he sort of said, wow, guess what? We're doing exactly the same sort of thing. Do you fancy pairing up?
Right.
And then he got me in contact with grade 6, because they were doing sort of the same. And we thought, wow, let's have our own sort of coral triangle going on, but here at Green School.
Oh, I love that. And that's just an informal conversation that just happened?
Yeah, just an informal conversation. But it's always something that I'm always looking at to try and go around Green School to see what everybody else is doing, to see if there's an opportunity that we could be partnering up and collaborating on a possible project together. Because it's so good for my grade 2s to learn off much older children, but also the older children to learn off and to teach much younger children too.
So there's a point to perhaps emphasise teachers have got to be having conversations and sharing what's going on in their classrooms so they can make those opportunities for intergenerational learning happen. I love that. Didn't I see recently, Ed, that you were doing some sort of learning with rice fields? Can you tell us about that? Because that's a really nice community connection as well.
Yeah, so I went off to the UNESCO rice fields here in Bali, and just by chance I saw this banner saying Manna Organic Fertilizer, and bumped into the founder, Hand High. And we just got talking, and I said, hey, how cool would it be if you could come work with Green School and we could use your organic fertilizer on our rice fields, and perhaps we could have a bit of a competition to see who makes the best organic fertilizer. Is it Green School or is it Manna? And he said, great, fantastic. And it's in grade 3, so we're having a competition of a manna paddy field and a green school paddy field, and we're seeing who has the best fertilizer. We're looking at the soil, the pH of the water, to sort of judge this on. And the manna staff, who are very kind, they're volunteering their time and their expertise to help support the children in how to grow rice, but also they're supporting the staff and also our gardeners as well here at Green School. So it's everybody in it together. They're sharing their secrets of how to grow the perfect rice, which is, great for the children because that's the culture of Bali. Rice growing is the culture. Yeah. But also our gardeners are getting something as well to help extend their professional learning in how to grow rice.
I really like how you're thinking about different areas of the ecosystem here. We've got the rice, the gardeners, the children, the teachers, the outside organisations. Feels really rich. I want to talk as well now about the ways that you, Ed, contribute to the Green School Bali that goes beyond your role as a teacher. Because really that's what all teachers should aspire to do, right? They should be making contributions that go beyond their sort of classrooms or learning environments. And this is something that we can talk about now with Regeneration, that teachers are contributing in lots of ways that again go across the campus or amongst the staff or beyond the ecosystem. Can you tell us any more tips or ideas or ways that you have found to contribute that goes beyond your grade 2 class?
I love cycling, and the moment that I landed in Bali, I was adamant that I wanted to find somebody that could possibly build me an electric bicycle, because pedal power to me is what I love, and it helps my health and well-being. And I found this amazing guy, Dharma, down in Denpasar, who built me this amazing electric bicycle, which is charged off a solar panel, and it's 100% carbon neutral. And I cycle around Bali wherever I go, visiting amazing environmental organisations and businesses to help further my education of what is happening here in Bali, but also to then help bring them in to Green School to help support projects that people didn't even realise that this organisation or this person was here in the first place. So I think it's really important for myself that I'm leading the way, that I'm showing everybody through what I'm doing, whether that's how I live, through the clothes I wear, through what I eat, to how I get about. I think that's really important, that I'm showing the way, that I'm creating a culture that children and parents can aspire to.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's sort of being a role model, isn't it? And that is an important consideration that our listeners might like to take on board, whether they're a parent or a teacher. How can you be a role model for the young people that you're working with? Now, Ed, I do know that you are either in the process of writing a book or you've written a book, which sounds so exciting. Do you want to tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, very exciting. I never thought it would ever happen. And something that's really close to my heart and really special to me. And I hope that it could be used across the world to help educators and teachers to use these ideas within their teaching and in their practices. So it's called 100 Ideas for Primary Teachers to Become a Greener School. And it has basically my 13 years of teaching within that book of tried and tested ideas that teachers can implement within their practices, within their school, whether that's to start their environmental journey or whether that's to carry it on further. So there's lots of examples from my UK career when I was a primary school teacher there, but also there's also an awful lot of lessons that I've done here at Green School to help showcase the work that I've done here too.
That's brilliant. And again, that's another example of how you're making a contribution, right? When's the book going to be published, Ed?
So the book's going to be published in September.
This year?
This year. So yeah, please look out for it. It's going to be published by Bloomsbury.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm sure I'll put out more information on my LinkedIn and on my other social media.
I'll have to get a signed copy from you, Ed, at some point.
Yeah, definitely, Charlotte. You're top of my list. You're very top. And make sure you get a free copy.
Thank you. Well, Ed, it's been wonderful speaking to you. You've really taken us through lots of practical ways that teachers might like to plan and learn with their students so they can not move beyond sustainability, but think about sustainability along with regeneration. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And hopefully that's given other people a little bit of inspiration for their own teaching. Thanks very much.
No, thank you so much, Charlotte. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, that's it for today's episode. Thank you to everybody who's been listening from the start. You can follow all of our other episodes on our social media channels. Details are below. And please join us for the next episode of the Green Sparks podcast.